Welcome back to 504 Road Trips. In today's episode of New Orleans Neighborhoods, we'll be doing a real-time drive through the area traditionally known as Tremé, but also sometimes called Faubourg Tremé or Tremé-Lafitte, when including the former Lafitte housing projects, which we will for the purposes of this video. Tremé-Lafitte is bounded by North Broad Street, Esplanade Avenue, Rampart Street, and St. Louis Street. It's one of the oldest neighborhoods in the city, and early in the city's history was the main neighborhood of free people of color. Historically a racially mixed neighborhood, it remains an important center of the city's African-American and Creole culture, especially the modern brass band tradition. Tremé lies in the 5th and 6th wards of New Orleans. Now, we began at St. Peter Street due to an error on my part when writing out the route for this neighborhood. As a result, we ended up driving through several private driveways where the Lafitte housing projects once stood. The projects were demolished and replaced with this mixed-income housing in the last 10 years or so. On the right is the Lafitte Greenway, a trail for pedestrians and bicycles extending from Louis Armstrong Park to Bayou St. John and beyond. Opened in 2015, it's the latest reconfiguration of a historic transportation corridor that has been in use for over 2 centuries. The land presently occupied by the Greenway was previously the site of the Norfolk Southern Railroad and the Carondelet Canal. Thus, this area has served as a transportation corridor since at least 1794. The city sold a large portion of the land to the Louisiana Institute of Film Technology in early 2006. However, plans for a grand studio never materialized, and in 2010, the Trust for Public Land brokered a deal which returned the land to public ownership. On the right is Louis Armstrong Park, a 32-acre park that hosted the first New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival in 1970. Then behind the park is the Mahalia Jackson Theater of the Performing Arts. The 2,100-seat theater serves as the long-term residence of the New Orleans Ballet Association, the New Orleans Opera Association, and the Broadway Across America touring productions. For the second time, we cross under Interstate 10, which runs along the Claiborne Avenue corridor. At the corner of Orleans Avenue and North Johnson is the historic Carver Theater, built in 1950 and was used for concerts, plays, off-Broadway shows, films, conventions, graduations, Mardi Gras balls, dance recitals, corporate events, and private parties. The theater, named after George Washington Carver, is on the National Register of Historic Places. At the corner of North Miro is the Dookie Chase Restaurant, owned by Queen of Creole Cuisine Leah Chase, who recently passed away in June of 2019. Her restaurant was known as a gathering place during the 1960s among many who participated in the civil rights movement, and was known as a gallery due to its extensive African-American art collection. In 2018, it was named one of the 40 most important restaurants of the past 40 years by Food and Wine magazine. On the right at 732 North Broad is the headquarters of the Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club, New Orleans' largest African-American carnival organization, founded in 1916. On the left at the corner of St. Anne and North Tonty is Willie Mae's Scotch House, an award-winning restaurant opened in 1957. Now we're into the mostly residential part of the neighborhood, so a little more on the history of Tremé. The modern Tremé neighborhood began as the Moran Plantation. Near the end of the 18th century, Claude Tremé purchased the land from the original plantation owner. By 1794, the Carondelet Canal was built from the French Quarter to Bayou St. John, splitting the land. Developers began building subdivisions throughout the area to house a diverse population that included Caucasians and free persons of color. In the early 1960s, in an urban renewal project later considered a mistake by most analysts, a large portion of central Tremé was torn down. The land stood vacant for some time, then in the 1970s the city created Louis Armstrong Park. In 1994, the New Orleans Jazz National Historical Park was established here. Musicians from Tremé include Alphonse Picou, Kermit Ruffins, Troy Trombone Shardy Andrews, Lucian Barberin, and the King of Treme, Shannon Powell. While predominantly African American, the population has been mixed from the 19th century through to the 21st. Jazz musicians of European ancestry, such as Henry Regis and Louis Prima, also lived in Treme. Alex Chilton, who led the rock groups Big Star and the Box Tops, lived in Treme from the early 1990s until his death in 2010. As we turn onto North Galvez, in front of us is the former Andrew J. Bell Junior High School, which has been converted into the Bell Art Space campus, providing subsidized live-work housing to artists. The Bell School began life in 1904 as the all-girls St. Joseph Academy High School and Sisters of St. Joseph Convent. The sisters had occupied the site for decades. Still standing in front of the school building today is a Gothic chapel commissioned by the sisters in 1887 and designed by James Ferret. The order moved to a new location in 1960 and sold the city block and all of its buildings to the Orleans Parish School Board. The school fell into disrepair after Hurricane Katrina and only recently underwent a $38 million renovation, becoming the Bell Art Space campus. On the right near North Tonty Street is the Edgar Degas House and Museum. This was the New Orleans home to the French Impressionist master Edgar Degas during the late 19th century. On the left at the corner of Ursulines and North Robertson is the former Joe's Cozy Corner, often considered the birthplace of the Rebirth Brass Band, one of the most notable current New Orleans bands. On the right is the Tremé Recreation Community Center, which features an arts and crafts room, indoor basketball courts, a dance studio, a fitness center, a music room, play equipment, a year-round indoor pool, and a stage. We conclude today's neighborhood tour at Esplanade and North Rampart. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up, post a comment, subscribe, share and follow us on social media, and join us for our next 504 road trip.